This acting masterclass, welcome everybody to the Coach MC studio, is a wonderful opportunity to come together as an acting community, as a performing community, as a creative community, like I always love to say during my videos on my YouTube channel, because it's really important to understand that we are a community. We can help each other out. Like I've witnessed this so many times over the years, like just reach out to people, ask them something, make them compliments, get in touch with them, collaborate, and you will see there is something new blossoming up very soon if you are really intentional about your collaborations, about your art, because we have that all in common. We can be all different. We can be red, white, brown, purple, black, whatever it is. We can have all our different faiths and mindsets and all our different backgrounds and educations, but when it comes down to really being passionate about art, about creating something, we share pretty much all the same culture, the same language, the same like willingness, right? If you would ask anyone out there, do you want to trade your job for being a highly paid actor? Probably 98% of all people would love to do that, or to be a performer, to have your own program. Why? Because it means freedom. It means you can pretty much control how your life has to go. And that is an incredible privilege, right? And that makes us happy already, like to be creators of our own world. But the thing is, over here at the Coach MC studio, we try to be the studio of modern acting and not just the studio of acting, right? Because the thing is that sometimes these acting studios, these outlets, these educational institutes. Welcome, Casey. It's wonderful to have you. Hope you guys can hear me well and see me well. This is going to happen. I'm trying to make this like every month, like a fixed date. I thought it would be like a great opportunity to start off this chain of classes that there will always be free. You know, let me just disclaim that right from the start, that I'm trying to organize every month, because to me, it's really important to kind of give the creative community some tools, some instruments, some tangible stuff, so they can start their own career, so they can tell their own stories, so they can, you know, start having success on their own. Because like I was saying before Casey was jumping in, this is the studio of modern acting. And it doesn't mean that we are changing acting, that we're making it more representative or whatnot. No. This is modern intended to be, let's get right into the business as well. Let's not just hang out, you know, for 3 years and try to explore my role and my psyche and everything. I think we are evolved as a human species. We're adding so much knowledge every day to the internet. I think every 5 days or so, we have 5 billion pages of knowledge added to the internet. Like we are racing at a crazy amount, at a crazy speed, right? Through a crazy amount of knowledge every day. So I don't think we need to know those things that are already incorporated in our system. We somehow know it, what we want, where we want to go, what there is to achieve. And so we need to put structure around and really find out what we're good at and kind of double down on that. And all the other stuff, it comes through the experience. It comes through the trial and error process. It comes through making mistakes, failing and getting up, you know, dusting yourself off, looking better than before, like Billy Wilder always said. The actor, the creative mind, has the incredible ability to fall down on the ground, getting up again, dusting off everything, and looking better than before and continue his path. This is what we're going to do. So over here, we not only teach acting, we also get you to understand what is your style. Where can we put you? What is your niche? What is your recognizability? And then we can also, you know, migrate to actually kind of capturing that on film, on tape, and then submitting it to the agencies, and then opening ourselves up to the castings, and then opening ourselves up to the success stories that will come after, you know, you booking the first role. Because over here at the Coach MC studio, we have witnessed that. And that is the beauty of being a coach. If you really get to work with a client over years, and then you see him having more and more success and booking better and better roles, or let's say bigger, not better, because every role is important. There is no better or wrong or right. It's every role is a piece of the mosaic that will make your picture stand out. But before we get ahead of ourselves, welcome everybody. I think now we have like a stable number. It's beautiful that you guys came out here. This is the Coach MC studio, like I said. And just to give you a little context, 10 years before this happened for the first time, I'm really proud of this little event that we created today. Before this happened, 10 years before, prior to that, we were like, my wife and I, we were a bit like struggling with our art. I just recently moved 10 years ago to Italy, and it was hard for me to kind of get into entertainment industry. I wasn't really like feeling the Italian vibe, you could say. I was struggling with my language. I really underestimated also my me coming from Germany, moving to Italy. I totally underestimated the business. I was a bit superficial in the preparation of my move. I did a lot of mistakes. And therefore, I crash landed badly, like in Rome, and I couldn't find a job. I couldn't book a role. I was like in this foreign country, almost with a foreign language, surrounded by problems, and I couldn't really understand how to get into the system. And so one day, Destiny wanted, my wife found out that a good friend of hers, she wanted, to audition for an English role, and she needed some help with an English monologue. And, things kind of happened that I worked with her because my wife invited her over, and that was an incredible moment. It was like an epiphany, working with her and just teaching her English and just teaching her, or just showing her how I would tackle this role, because I was just speaking out of my own experience. That kind of, turned my life upside down, because I understood I could channel all my prior experiences as an actor. I'm on stage for, the biggest chunks of my life. I have been on stage and in front of the camera. I started acting when I was 12. So all this experience I made prior to that, all of a sudden made sense in the context of giving it to someone else. And that's where I felt like, okay, this is something important. This is meaningful. I can help people to get better through what I've experienced. How great is that? And so for me, that was the breakthrough in Italy, but it was also the creation of the Coach MC studio. And then we thought, all right, let's test this product. Let's test this Coach MC, and let's go to the US and work with US actors, and let's go to LA and test some acting schools there. And let's try to see if this, what we found over here in Italy, works also in the Mecca of entertainment industry. And sure it did. And so we got back from LA with all these new experiences, and we set up this company and said, we're going to make this like a method, a teaching method, where we can give people in the first like 10 sessions already all the fundamentals they need for acting. And the next 10 sessions, we build a monologue to a point that's absolutely perfect. And then we record it, and then in the next 10 sessions, we give it out to the people, and we start to get into the industry, we start working. So in 30 sessions and 30 hours of lessons, we can get a person from not being an actor necessarily to being in an agency, having a portfolio, and start auditioning. And to kind of observe that is just a miracle. It's just something wonderful that happens over and over again. And so therefore, whoever thought about like becoming an actor or improving his acting skills or trying something new or coming into a country that is foreign to that person, everything is possible if you really, put your heart behind it, put your mind behind it, and put good passion and consistency in your work. Everything is possible. And having that privilege to work with creatives, to work with artists, to, indulge into the art of, coming up with choreographies, ways of thinking, ways of saying things, inventing new characters. That is like the ultimate description of happiness, because every time you get the opportunity of being someone else without having to face all, the responsibilities and the implications of the case, you can always kind of fall back to your private being and say, this is the character. I can blame the character for doing all these things. It's not me. So you enjoy an incredible liberty. So why did we opened up our doors on Sunday? so we can, communicate with you. Because I believe it's important once in a while also to reflect on your knowledge, to kind of refurbish on it, give it out to other people to kind of, understand the structure, but also to answer questions. So at the end of this little masterclass, we're going to answer all of your questions. And I hope like you get the most out of this, and you understand like what incredible power you have, because acting nowadays is not exclusive to Hollywood, to actors anymore. The camera is not exclusive to Hollywood or actors anymore. The camera now belongs to everybody. We all have a camera at home. And this lens, these little, 3 things, look at them. They are ridiculously small. I mean, it's nothing compared to our size. It's nothing compared to the world. But these 3 lenses, if you use them wisely, if you know how to impact them, if you know how to really kind of put your message, your crazy, messy, chaotic your heart and your mind together into a message that is compelling, that has structure, and that has a certain rhythm, it is driven by a certain passion, these 3 lenses can help you to, manifest pretty much everything in your life. I seriously mean that. I'm not a freaking guru. I'm not Mishna Gandingari on Mind Valley or anything like that. I'm just telling you that with your talent, with your force, with your will, and with a couple of nice ideas and collaborating with creative communities such as this one, these 3 lenses can really change your life. Because you can, nowadays promote your products, sell your company, advertise, or even like shoot videos of your services, of the objects that you want to sell, or, self-tape audition for a bigger project and send that over to the other side of the world. Pretty much everything you want to do, you can sell real estate. You can also connect to your community and teach them how to create a piece of art, or how to, fix their taxes, or whatever it is. Video right now is the one medium that you need basically for everything that you have in mind. Like whatever it is, whatever type of freelancer, creative entrepreneur, Silicon Valley, addicted guru, whatever webinar, master coach you are, you need a camera, you need a message, and you need some structure. Otherwise, you're not in a business. Otherwise, you're not communicating. Like even Google refers to YouTube, right? If you're searching for something on Google, they will give you immediately the media if they find anything. If their hit, if their name is also, kind of finding and detecting a video, they will give you the video first before giving you the info, the actual info. Because it's all about video. It's all about the camera. It's all about communicating to the whole wide world. But here's the thing. I want you to write down 3, fundamental things about acting on camera, why we're doing this masterclass, and how you can have make a sincere impact. Like you need these 3 things to do that, because otherwise it's going to be a tough mission, because out there are billions of people who have the cell phone as well, who use the lenses as well. Out there are millions of actors, billions of actors. And so in order to have a career by acting on camera, in order to really kind of have some sort of a long-term plan, you need something that is a bit more special, that is a bit more outstanding, respectfully to all the others that are competing in your same field. So 3 things. You need to be recognizable. And please feel free, if you have any questions, also to, place them in the chat box. I will go through them, come back to them. What does recognizability really mean? It means that you have a certain style when you're doing what you're doing. Why are we going to Starbucks? Because they are selling bad coffee? No, we're going to Starbucks because Starbucks is recognizable. We can trust Starbucks to deliver a certain service in a certain way and fulfill in a certain amount of time, a certain order, because, they've, over and over again, they've demonstrated to the public, they are recognizable for things, right? They are personal, they're asking for your name, they're quick, It's this beautiful, they have a certain style.
They have really clean bathrooms, which is, a real major plus.
It is. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. You need to be recognizable. That style is your best strategy. Style is the best strategy. Nowadays, marketing is more like almost more important than the content itself, the what we do around it, right? We have like seen this over and over again with Hollywood movies, but also with other things that were marketed in a great way and had a great initial success. And maybe people found out then that the product actually was poor, and they, stopped, attending these shows, and so they dropped with the box office in the following week. But initially they had great success because the marketing worked. And this goes for so many products, right? Because content is king, but the content, right? The context that you're presenting, that is the kingdom. So you need to be recognizable. You need to have a style. You need to distinguish yourself. You need to kind of, stand out somehow. Is it the way you say things? Is it your stillness? Is it the way you approach the room? Is it because you're always eating? Is it, whatever it is, develop your style. If you want to survive, I would go even so far and say it's not about surviving, because that sounds so cruel and so rude. It's like Hunger Games. It's not about surviving. It's really about creating your market. It's like being you out there. You need to be recognizable, because otherwise you're part of someone else's market and you're competing in a red ocean of bloody competition with everybody else, where everybody's battling and fighting over little tiny market spec. No, this is my market spec. No, it's mine. No. Right? No, create your own market where you don't have to fight, by creating your style. How do we create style? By first getting acquainted with our taste, by developing a taste. Because nowadays, again, we're also very distracted. Every day we get bombarded with information, with sounds, with noise, with panic, with wars, with famine. Every day we get bombarded with bad news, right? Our expiration dates, things we need to fix at home, our relationships. Everybody wants our attention. We are very distracted. And so therefore, it's very hard, respectfully to 30 years ago, to really have time to develop your taste. Back in the days, it was like a given thing when you were attending a drama school, when you were getting into like a conservatory, musical conservatory, or like in a paint school, art school, that first of all, they were teaching you the methods and the instruments, and before they were even like touching upon those subjects, they were first developing your taste, your eye, your way of observing art, of extracting what's good and what's bad out of the art, understanding what is great art in the first place. If you don't know what great art actually is, if you can really distinguish that's because of this and because of the noise, then first you have to detach yourself a little bit from all these things to kind of get to yourself and really kind of stick your antennas out and really sense for yourself, I like this or I don't like this, right? And I like this because of that and that reason, and I think it's because of that and that, and try to really kind of detect inside of the art what are the little elements inside of that art piece, no matter what that art piece is, that resonate with you, right? Because with someone else, it might be something completely different. White and we could stand in front of a Renaissance painting, right? And and we could both agree that we love the painting, but no, maybe White, finds parts of the painting interesting that I don't find interesting. And then maybe Leon joins and says, you know what, I like the landscape way better. And then Nicole joins and she says, you know what, I love the coloring. So what is it? It's resonating in a different way with each and every one of us. But it's first of all like getting an understanding, like, what is my taste? What is it that I really like about art, about great acting? What are the elements that I really appreciate? Can I replicate them? Can I show to myself that I can do the same? Can I even top that? right? Can I add something new and something spectacular and something personal? Because by doing so, again, you become recognizable. So recognizability is probably, 30% of your career.
Even speaking from the acting student standpoint of it, doing auditions, think of the casting directors, the people doing the auditions. They see repeated people doing the same exact thing over and over again. It's boring. They mind falls out of their skulls. That's when someone comes in and adds something new that really stands out to them. I saw someone commenting for examples of certain styles, and I was just, for an example, think like giving the exact same role to Jack Nicholson and Denzel Washington. They're going to play the exact same character, but they're going to do it completely differently because that's their different styles.
That's a very good example. I mean, think about Will Smith turning down The Matrix. Now imagine The Matrix being played, Neo being played by Will Smith instead of Keanu Reeves. It doesn't make even sense imagining it, right? You're kind of, it's like, no, it's wrong, right? So probably Will felt this is not my style. What I mean, like Victoria is asking, could you give an example with a certain style about somebody, maybe you, yeah, right? It's style is you ultimately, right? What is your style? And that develops over time and by implementing different things and learning different things. But overall, you have a way of entering the room. You have a way of drinking coffee. You have a way of kissing. You have a way of listening to music. And there is something funny inside of that, your natural way of listening to music and smoking a cigarette and drink. There's something funny about that. There is something curious and intriguing about every way of doing things, right? And if you double down and observe, right, and double down again, you will, finally kind of realize what's so funny about you, listening to music and drinking coffee or whatever it is in a scene that you can do. And that thing becomes some sort of a trademark. Look at Peter Sellers when he comes into the room, right? His posture, his way of entering the room, it's already funny, right? He has a certain style of just coming into the room. Or Gene Wilder, right? Just standing, he was always kind of tilting somewhere. He could never stand straight, right? Or Johnny Depp, right? He has a certain way of looking through his hair, right to the camera. There are ways of doing things that all of a sudden they become a trademark. That is a style. That is something, but you understand that by developing that taste, but you're understanding by understanding what elements you like, right? And observing these actors and, watching movies, really just getting acquainted with the material. The second thing that is truly important is to be versatile. But the versatility part doesn't mean that you need to do like a billion, gazillion different things. Of course, it helps if you are good at horseback riding, at fencing, at singing, at Tai Chi, at martial arts. It helps because it shows that you have a diversified portfolio. Your cover letter looks good. If you can say, you look at all my skills, that's beautiful. That is definitely also versatile, but versatile in the acting sense. And also this is acting on camera. That means different ways of impacting the camera, different ways of getting your message over, and different ways of breaking, the emotional current that lies beneath your monologue, right? Going in different directions and feeling good about them and having the flexibility to adapt to mood changes, or maybe also capturing the mood of the audience, the mood of the reader, the mood of what is my today's mood, right? And being really like able to translate that every time you get called to action, to be versatile. If somebody asks you, you know what, I've seen this piece made like this, this monologue so many times in this way. Why don't you do it the other way around? Why don't you try to be funny with this monologue, even though it's a dramatic monologue, yeah? And usually like people always scream and yell and cry, right? And now the casting director asks you all of a sudden, you know what? Try to make me laugh with this monologue now. I've seen this so many times, like surprise me. And that versatility, like to jump into, into the deep end and jump into darkness and say, you know what, I probably have something here that I can show him, right? And kind of immediately pivot and going into a different direction. That is versatility, to have that inner flexibility, that adaptiveness, that you're always ready to perform, like I like to say, no matter, you know, what the occasion, the context is, because the context can change, right? But you have to kind of figure out what is the best content that I can place in this context now, right? A great exercise for this is to, you know, watch frames, just wooden frames. Go to a vintage market or to a secondhand bazaar, or just go where the thrift shops, sometimes they are selling the furniture, right? And look at all these wooden frames. Now, all the frames look different. Now, how would you fill up those different frames? Because every frame needs a special content piece. And so by imagining how many different frames you have, you can imagine how many times you can change your monologue to fit the different frames. And this is what you offer. Because in the end, I believe that versatility, and I will get now to the nitty-gritty of the masterclass and how to impact the camera and what we can do with it. But versatility is ultimately, that is our translation, how we decipher reality. Like, we have style and recognizability, but we also have the ability to jump into different pockets of emotions on a moment's notice, right? Somebody asks us to do something else. Somebody asks us to change, to pivot. Somebody else asks us to adapt. No problem, because reality is how flexible I am, right? If I'm always stoic, I don't like to change, right? This is the way I do things, right? No, this is right. Nothing else is right. If I don't have that humility, that humbleness to accept that art is always different, respectfully to who is observing it. And that person has also the right to express his way of how he likes to perceive art. And I have to adapt to it and not stand against it. Because I got this principle out of, martial arts. There are two ways of fighting. The one way is being stronger than my opponent. So when the incoming force is hitting me, I am stronger than my opponent. I can block him and I can counterattack. Or, because that, of course, will just lead me to always trying to be stronger than my opponent. And one day I will have an opponent that is just physically stronger than me, and then I'm doomed. So what can I do if the opponent is physically way, way stronger, more buffed up and everything than me? I have to lean into the force and not trying to be stronger than him. I have to kind of use his momentum to counterattack, to, spot the blind or weak spot and hit in there, right? I have to be smart. I have to be adaptive. So there are two ways of tackling this, whether you're standing on your throne and you don't like to change, and you can maybe do that if your name is Bill Murray or Michael Caine. Otherwise, we have to be adaptive. We need to be versatile in this game. And finally, and most importantly, we need to be consistent. Like, we need to stick with our beliefs. We need to exercise as much as we can, and we need to go out there and test it. Because if we are not testing it consistently, we don't get feedback. And if we don't get feedback, right, we don't get that critical information that maybe is also painful, because yes, acting, entertainment is, it's an industry of many rejections. There are many no's in our industry, in every industry, right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but in acting, sometimes you can even audition multiple times a day. So, and that'd be like 5 days a week, right? So there are many no's, right? Stacking up, piling up one after the other. But also in life, we experience that a lot. Of course, we have a lot of rejection that we have to face, a lot of no's. It means just next opportunity, nothing else. Consistency. One no just means, right, this is not the right place. I strongly believe that. That is not just some fatalistic, no, it's really like that. Like, the universe sends you to the places you need to go exactly at the moment you need to be there. It's always like that. So if it's no this time, it's because you have to go to another place. Because there, in the transition of going from one place to the other, of absorbing the pain, right, and kind of digesting the refusal, and kind of going and reflecting why they didn't book you, you have to transition to the next opportunity, right? No just brings you to the next opportunity, and that opportunity all of a sudden opens up for you. And you realize it only could have opened up because I was, neglected the entrance the first time. It's through that transition of getting refused to enter the first time that I made all the right choices the next time. And therefore, now I'm in the room. Now I can finally play. So recognizability, versatility, and consistency, I think, are the three major keys to have something called a career. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty, to this acting masterclass. Okay, now I know what is my roadmap. I need to develop a style. That is my best strategy. Style is strategy. I'm staying open to all the considerations, to all the adjustments, to all the signs of the universe, to all the directions. So I'm versatile. I know exactly how to jump into different pockets of emotion. I stay consistent so people can see my integrity and my loyalty to the material, to the craft, to everything I'm doing. That shows my passion, because people, they study you. If you're an entertainment industry, even if you are an actor somewhere in Valencia, right? And there is the producer and he sits in California, Burbank, he knows that you're there. These people, they are at the best, they are top of the game. If you go to LA, you see agencies like talent agencies. Like if you go to the best talent agency in Berlin, which is not a small market, it's, I think, the third biggest TV market in the world, Germany, right? So if you go to a big agency in Berlin, you will find an apartment that they've rented out. And you got a couple of computers there and a beautiful desk and a great office. And surely there's going to be an espresso coffee and some orange juice that tastes horrible. But, this is the agency in Berlin. If you go to a top-notch agency in LA, you don't find an apartment that they've rented out. You find a building, a skyscraper, right? You find like 24 stories. That means these people know everything about entertainment industry. That's how they can, afford to even, build those buildings in order to, get their talent agency in, because they have so many aspects. So they know who you are. They know that you exist. If you're in entertainment industry, if you're coming to town, they know already. It's their job to know. So every day potentially is an audition. Every day potentially is a casting. Every day potentially is a day to get spotted. And this is not hopium I'm trying to distribute. This is the truth. I've seen this over and over again. During my life, in my career, I've seen this over and over again. There's always like a day where it pops. But this day was 10 years in the making. This overnight success kind of took 20 years in the preparation. This, oh, I found you. What a surprise. On the street. Yeah, what a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. They knew. And so now they thought it's time. But they've observed you over time. So this is our long-term strategy. But how do we actually do it? How do we actually develop that sense? How do we actually work for ourselves? Because the thing is this, and I like, this is my philosophy. I've been working my whole life according to this principle. If you want something, if you want to get somewhere, you have to behave exactly like a person would do if she's already in that building. Like if you want to be a manager of a stockbroker, trust fund somewhere, like working in New York, driving a Ferrari, you have to behave like this. You have to get up 4:30 in the morning, right? Even if you're in your home in Wisconsin, get up 4:30, right? Work out, do your yoga, do your journaling, do exactly what a stockbroker in New York would do, right? Except doing cocaine. And fix your coffee, get all through your program, get all the news, absorb all the information, work like a stockbroker, do all the calls, because this is how you build it up. You can tell the universe, once they hire me in Hollywood, I will act like Marilyn Monroe, like Lauren Bacall, like Gene Hackman, right? Once I get the call from this agency, I will be the best version of myself, right? I will blow them away. No. The preparation is the success. It's not when you get the call. You get the call because you did this. I once had a student, and we went through different improvs, and there was one improv. This is what I love to do sometimes. Is like, hey, imagining you're taking a shower, like a hot shower. Like, how does that feel? And she was really in the improv. She was, feeling the music and singing. She was really feeling nice. We set up a scene where she can think of like why I'm taking the hot shower, all that. And we did the improv. She did the monologue. It was beautiful. And at the end, she said, "Oh, you know what, coach? I felt like I could undress myself. I felt so free and so liberated. I really was in the moment. I felt like, oh, I need to get rid of these clothes." And I said, "Why didn't you do it?" Say, I'm not doing this here, in the acting studio. Is like, why not? Don't you trust me? Like, yes, no, I trust you. But, I will take my clothes off just for Hollywood. When I'm in Hollywood, then, I was like, no, you will take your clothes off for the student movies, for the B movies, for the low budget movies. This is where you take your clothes off. And then this is the preparation for the Hollywood. In Hollywood, once you're there are thousands of assistants, thousands of people running around you. You're important. All the scenes are super heavy and expensive. There you won't even feel like taking, it's not even necessary anymore. It's now where you're building that craftsmanship, that second skin, that layer of understanding. I need to be adaptive to all the situations. And you can't wait for any perfect alignment or the constellation. You need to do it right now in the moment. This is where you build your toolbox. Later on, it's a piece of cake. You have to do it when it's the most difficult, not the easiest. When it's the easiest, then everybody can do it. You have to show it to the universe and to yourself that you do it under the hardest imaginable circumstances, because this is how you build up your stamina, your belief, your faith into your art. And you need to have faith in your art, because there are many artists out there. The competition is brutal. Every day there are millions of artists who are getting, not maybe millions, but like thousands of artists coming new to the game. And so therefore you need to stand out. And besides being versatile, besides being consistent, and besides being recognizable, you need a controlled obsession about your art. You need to be obsessive about it. There is no other way to explain it. I said this yesterday during a session with one of my clients. I once played a Nazi who wrote a letter to Hitler begging him to kill his son, because that Nazi was a farmer and his son couldn't help him on the field because he was born crippled. And therefore he thought, this is unworthy life, right? He's just hindering the great German empire to grow. So please, Hitler, kill my son. And this is actually a true story. And that got me into the open Oscar list, that role, but it also crushed me for like 6 months or so. I was really devastated after playing this character, because, just an incredible, hateful person, right? I mean, he wanted his son to be dead just because he was born crippled. And he wrote a letter, and this actually happened. And that set off Aktion T. It's like, that was the name of this program that killed over 250,000 disabled kids in Germany. And the kickoff was this letter. So you can imagine, if you dive into such a character, that of course you get wounded, you get scars, but scars make you recognizable. Scars is everything that's interesting. Why do you think that Hollywood puts a scar on every protagonist's face? This is
chicks dig scars also. There's that too.
Of course. This is planet Mars. That's Ares, the scarred god, right? And the planet Mars has a huge scar all over its surface, right? This is why Hollywood is always, giving you a scar, because scars are recognizable and they show the Borea. In Germany, there are still some student fraternities where you need a scar to be accepted. So they will kind of fence you over, like slightly, right, over your face. Studentenbewegung, right? So that's how we call them. You need a scar to be inside of the group. And in a way, actors need scars too. If we don't have scars, we don't have a product. So how can we impact the camera? You see, I believe, like, besides the many ways how the camera gets used nowadays, you can have it for a web series, you can have it for an industrial reel, you can use the camera to shoot advertising, you can shoot soap operas, TV, feature films, documentaries. You know, the camera gets used everywhere. And of course, there are technical properties of all these cameras. And, you know, by the changing properties, of course, also the product changes, and therefore your behavior in front of the camera should change. But we'll talk about that. Like, generally, like, let's say you don't even have an idea of how the camera works. What is it that you like to express? This is the question that you have to ask yourself. And my approach to that, because I started as a kid, when I wasn't educated in the beginning, right? My acting was all spontaneous. Of course, I had directors, but I was a kid. I was, you know, self-teaching myself this process, pretty much everything. So it's like a painter and his canvas. It's pretty much the same relationship. Now, I want you to do a thing. Write down in the chat box, what is your favorite movie scene? You can also write down what is your favorite movie, but I think, like, to be really specific, to really understand the process, it would be great that it's as granular as possible. Do you have a favorite movie scene? Think of one. Take your time, like close your eyes even, right? Is there one movie scene where you think, yes, that was the best, it's still there in my memory, therefore?
Mine came to me quickly.
Yeah, same.
Just write it down, right? Write in the chat box, what is your favorite movie scene? And also try to write in a couple of lines, why is that? Why is this movie scene your favorite movie scene? And in the meanwhile, we have the time to share the screen because I want to show you something. So we talked about the many ways, right? We can impact the camera, the many ways the camera can be used, and the many jobs and the many implications and the many forms of expressions, you know, we can use to, you know, to impact the camera, to, you know, drive revenue, to tell our story, to start a culture, right? And so this is just a little excerpt of all the things that we can do. But in order to do that, we need to understand, what is it really that we do with the camera? Of course, we can do interviews. Of course, we can do presentations, right? We can, you know, shoot our show reels. We can be part of movies. We can shoot our self-tapes. But what is it really that I do with the camera? Now think about your favorite scene, right? And write down why you like that scene. And think about all the ways it could be used, right? Whether you want to put it into a public speaking contest, right? Where you're speaking to an audience and you show, you know, scenes out of your favorite movie, right? And you show that particular scene that you're writing down right now in the chat box, and you say, you see, it needs to be a little bit like this, right? Or you're taking some headshots, and, you know, behind your eyes in a headshot, there must be something occurring. Otherwise, your story is not compelling, and the casting director will skip your headshot, right? He needs to stick with your headshot. He needs to look at your headshot and find something interesting about it. It's like, I like the narrative behind Leon's eyes. I like what Kati is thinking in this picture. I love how Nicole is capturing me. Right? I love what Wyatt is saying here. It's like, why is it that Petra, you know, kind of ignites more interest than anyone else? It's because We have a narrative. We have a story, right? So if you think about the script that you have to impact the camera, you start realizing that, you know, in the end, we are all storytellers. We can all, you know, share something. There is a way of saying things that is unique to us. And if we flesh that out, we have a style, we are recognizable, maybe it's interesting for someone else as well. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be, you know, always going to be like a huge, giant, you know, incredible. But sometimes we don't need that giant audience. Sometimes we need just a couple of people who really listen to us. I've played in front of, you know, just a couple of seats, right? Just maybe 8, 9 seats. Otherwise, they would have stopped. At the theater, sometimes if you play in studio theaters, there is not much audience going on. Like off Broadway or off Broadway, sometimes you have like, you know, barely 40 people sitting there. Maybe it's sometimes even 20 or 10, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes these nights, they give you something special because you can feel each and every one of those people. So we are all storytellers. We all have something to say, and whether or not it's a huge audience or a small audience, it's always worth telling. Because the impact, the information we get back, the feedback from our audience is always beautiful. It's always a new lesson. We can always do something with it. Okay. So all of Whiplash and Mr. Whitetail.
Correct.
Yeah, because it's a perfect movie. I love it too. And the final 20 minutes of Whiplash convey so much emotion and inner dialogue between the characters, culminating the entire movie, which with almost no dialogue at all. Interesting. So
yeah,
please.
I was just say so much of the movie has these like really intense conversations between the characters, and there are times where J. Jonah Jameson's character is, you know, screaming and really intense, but there's so much where they're just like talking not intense, and there's so much going on between the eyes and just emotions that is just so powerful to me.
Perfect. If you could find 3 adjectives, these 20 minutes, how to capture them in 3 adjectives, what would those adjectives be?
It starts off with the teacher. His objective is to embarrass and shame the student, the main character, for basically getting him fired from his role. So he wants to show that he's basically at the top. You can't fuck with me. Basically, I'm the gatekeeper.
How would you describe that? Is there a word you can find to describe that behavior?
I'm not sure, really.
Or is a way that you could say, like, this is how, what would my title be for the final 20 minutes of this movie? If there would be like a headline, I could to describe it.
Perfection. It's the ultimate, I guess you could say, battle between the student and the teacher, because they both are intent with basically proving the other wrong, showing the other that they aren't shit, and neither of them really relent until they both earn a respect for each other, and then they become on equal sides. It starts off with the teacher wanting to crush a student gets crushed, but then he comes back and is like, I'm not going to take that shit, and then goes to crush the teacher. And then when the teacher is pissed off at first, is like, you're challenging me, then he starts to recognize what's going on, and they work on the same side.
Yes, it's the, you know, it's the beautiful and wonderful old tale of the teacher, of the master who becomes the student becomes the master, the neophyte, the hierophant becomes the neophyte, and all of a sudden, you know, when the development is over, both, you know, look each other eye to eye, they finally are level, right? And so you have this great union, but it's a wonderful conflict, wonderful contrast, a lot of, you know, collision, and there is a lot of clashes going on. Very interesting. And then we have Victoria saying it's a scene of a soul because she cried without tears, right? And it got much deeper than every tears I've ever seen, Victoria Baumann says. Very interesting, right? So you had...
I think it's very a challenge for me to express this in English, but I'll try to.
Sure.
It's about a love story, and they meet after like 25 years again, where they have been separated. and she is married now, and they kiss. And after this scene, they meet in a park, and they talk about this, and she is in so much pain, and she is so the German word would be verletzlich. I don't know the
she's
English
vulnerable.
word.
She's vulnerable. Yeah, beautiful word.
And with every look they exchange, you see more of this pain, of her pain. She opens up like a little child, and after I watched this scene, I had to rewatch it so many times, because for me it was so fascinating that it catched me so much, because she didn't cry. She made it without tears, and this was the thing I loved about it.
It's good that you said that you had difficulties explaining this. I mean, you explain it perfectly. It's a wonderful explanation. Thank you so much, Victoria. This is absolutely spot on. A complete different scene, right? A complete different emotional pocket. But again, I'm trying to make a point here. So I'm very curious about Leon's take. The moment in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man when the Green Goblin is attacking a group of innocent civilians. I remember that great scene. Spider-Man comes into to save them. When Spider-Man is getting pummeled, the crowd of civilians start pelting Green Goblin with metal pipes and all the various items they're holding. And one man says, "You mess with the Spider-Man, you mess with New York." Right. And so, and a second man chimes in and says, "You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us." I love this scene because it shows the best in humans and how one man can inspire what were moments before scared sheep. One hero turned into a community of heroes. That's beautiful. It's a very, it is a very deep message also. Yes.
Yeah. You said as like 3 adjectives that would describe a scene. And to me, obviously the first one's unity, united, like there's an entire group of people that, come together. So you've got unity there. Beyond that, you've got I think honestly, I'm only gonna give 2 because I think only the second one matters, and that's American. Like it's a very American idea, ideology, especially in a post 9/11 world. This movie came out just 1 year after 9/11, and despite what America, thinks of, what people think of it nowadays, we're all fighting each other and whatnot. There's something unabashedly American about coming together for a common goal and all being on the same side when you probably wouldn't look the other way at the individual in the subway on any other day. But one moment just unites people, and that's American.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Like, so White had the clash, the conflict, the opposite forces, but then coming to an agreement. Victoria had the beauty of the sensitivity and the sensibility of a person that is about to cry but wants to keep her tears inside, and kind of the whole scenery, how it evolved and progressed. Then we have here the message with Leon, right? Something a community stands for, some like to have like a broader message incorporated into a scene. I like that too. Casey's saying, well, it's the first one that came to mind because I've been rewatching the Equalizer 2, great movie. Denzel is a mercenary in the movie who has just found out his co-workers from a previous life have killed his only friend. He tells them that he's going to kill them, but he doesn't say it so simply. He gives them a monologue about how people get away with bad things sometimes, but this isn't one of those times. He also says that he's going to kill each and every one of them, and the only thing he will be upset about is that he can only do it once. Wow, I love that message. You want to say something about that scene, Casey? Maybe she's
at work while she's watching this, so she may not be able to.
Okay, all right. Okay. Kati says, she goes on, Donnie Darko, the scene when Gretchen tells Donnie that she believes something bad happened to her mom, right? Nymphomaniac, the monologue of Mrs. H when she confronts her cheating husband. Wow, yeah, that was a crazy monologue. Can you tell me why you liked it so much?
So she brings, so for context, I was first not sure if I can mention this movie because it's a Lars von Trier film and he has very sometimes very crazy hard content.
There's nothing that is not allowed here.
Good, because I'm really into experimental films. So a wife comes to confront her husband who cheated with a much younger girl on him, and she brings her 3 little children, and she tells him like, basically, you destroyed your children's lives, and it is, you don't know if you can laugh about it or not, because she's very destroyed in that moment, but she's also really strong, and she's very ironic in a way, like, oh yeah, and your kids will need years of therapy, but therapy, who's gonna pay for it? And I think it's really great because it's this thing between comedy and drama.
For sure. Like, yeah, I always say that comedy is drama or tragedy written with a mirror. You know, that's what comedy is, right? And so where the drama ends on the same border the comedy starts, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Nicole, Die Verurteilten. Don't know the English name, right? Shawshank Redemption, right? Yes. And Tim Robbins.
Yeah, Shawshank.
Shawshank Redemption, right?
Yeah, Shawshank in English.
Okay, right. Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. Tim was very intelligent, very patient. He was smarter than the supervisor in prison. I loved the moment when the review was in the movie and you could see how he acted during his prison time, right?
Yeah, that's Shawshank. It's
an incredible, like, it's a very interesting piece, right? That movie is an interesting piece. The script is good, but it's those two actors combined that make it somehow like really special. Again, coming back to like, imagine Neo being played by Will Smith, right? You can't really imagine anyone else playing those roles in that movie. And so therefore it's an interesting tale, but these actors make it really special. They have something going on. Somehow they clicked. Somehow it's the editing. Yeah, it's just goosebumps. You want to tell us something about it, Nicole?
I think I wrote down everything because I love this movie. I watched the movie, what is the word? Several times. Several times. Lot of times I saw the movie, and it touched me. I don't know why. But you're right. It's unbelievable with Will Smith, because I like Will Smith, but not in this movie. If you change Tim Robbins against, or if you change with
anyone else,
it's not possible.
Right.
It touched me, the movie, and I can see it all the time. If I saw it on the TV, it comes today, I save the time just for this movie. I don't know why. Maybe it's
just absolutely, it's just, no, they created an incredible atmosphere. It's very dense, and when you get lost in this movie, it's like, it's really interesting. Casey has raised her hand. Tell me, Casey, you're here. You want to say something? No, I agree. It's a beautiful, it's the whole vibe of this movie that is very interesting, right? They have a certain style that is recognizable, and they were consistent in applying it, right? And so
what you told before.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, it's I don't know what, hero story.
It's a hero's journey.
At the end, they are free, and this is my target, that I'm more free with my work.
By the way, guys, okay, so yes, I'm sorry, Casey, that you had to leave. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was great having you. Thanks so much. I think if you, I can only recommend, read, A Hero with 1,000 Faces, The Hero with 1,000 Faces from Joseph Campbell. Or just listen also to Joseph Campbell's myth talks on YouTube. You can find some fantastic footage there, because like, coming again back to the idea that we are storytellers, right? What kind of story do we have? We will, our story is always myth. Our story is always the hero's journey, in private life and in acting life. It's always that. We need to tell a story that we come into a situation, and the situation, we find obstacles. These obstacles will change our character in order to overcome the obstacles, we become the hero, we become this new character. And through that, we experience catharsis. We are storytellers, always, right? And so this movie is the perfect representation of that hero's journey. And it also shows the three, I think, pillars of success that I've mentioned previously. Alice Super V. I love the first scene of La La Land. It's powerful intro and the mix of actors and dancers working with the camera. I think it's unique. I think you're right. The first scene of La La Land is just incredible. It's a beautiful, yeah, it's surprising. It's colorful. It's vibrant. It's optimistic. It's just, it puts in a good mood. It's a great mood board for the entirety of the film. You kind of get an idea of what the film is going to be about. It's just nice, right? It's just it gives you a good like feeling just watching that scene. So this little exercise, what was this about? To show you guys, so you see it for yourself, to show you that how we impact the lens, how we impact the camera has always something to do with contrast, with being colorful, with being compelling. Because contrast, conflicts, clashes, they are good because they give us the reason why we should look at this, right? Because through the conflict, we understand, oh, right, what is the problem? How can I, which part do I take here? Who is wrong? Who is right? Who do I believe in? Like, where do I kind of see myself? Like in this character or in this character, or a little bit of both, right? Like White mentioned Whiplash, sometimes we jump to the master, right? To the very severe, tough, and almost brutal instructor, right? And we think, wow, yeah, he's kind of tough to this guy, right? He's tough on him, right? But then we also understand his point because he really wants to forge the best product. And then we jump into the student's head and we think, oh yeah, I mean, he's a poor guy. He should be a bit easier on him. But on the other hand, it's like, hey, you should also do something if you want a career. There's so many competitors. And so therefore, Whiplash also speaks a little bit for this. It kind of stands for our careers. It stands for our destiny. It stands a little bit also for this masterclass, because in this way, we should like perceive this game. If your instructor is soft on you, you won't learn enough to make it out there. If he's too hard on you, you will break it and you won't make it out there. So you have to find, the right quality. Sometimes instructors like to break their neophytes and then to kind of rebuild them, remodel them, reshape them, because they need that catharsis, that hero's journey type of experience to break down and to, rise again out of the ashes. So in a way, don't feel pain too much, or don't get desperate too much if you are going through a rough patch, because the rough patch belongs to the artist. The artist needs to go through that personal drama school, right? In order to overcome his demons, to really understand where he's from, to develop that recognizability. Because style, guys, your style comes only from a place of honesty. And that honesty can only be developed if you go through those dark moments, through those dark periods. And I'm not saying this should be too dramatic, but if you really want to be an artist, you have to develop something that is unique. And usually that uniqueness just gets forged in a place where it's tough, right? Where usually you are scared to enter because you have to learn new skills, because you have to measure up with others, because you have to compete, because you have to speak publicly, because you have to show your art. Art without display is just therapy. Your art needs to be displayed and perceived by an audience in order to become art. If you create great art and then you put it under your bed, it's just therapy. It's not art. Art needs to be displayed. It needs to be out there. And you want your best art to be out there. So it needs to be recognizable. It needs to be forged. Therefore, we are a bit like painters. And all these examples that we have here, they're just speaking of this. You need contrast. You need color. You need conflicts. You need transitions. right? You need to understand where the color is moving and why it's moving. You need bright colors, rich colors. You need strong and powerful colors, but you need also colors that support the other colors in order to get to the next scene, to the next, section of the painting. You can't always block the same colors all over the canvas. Otherwise, it's too aggressive. Otherwise, it's too impactful. You need to give also space to your audience, to the eye of the audience. So whenever we are creating a scene in front of the camera, take in all these informations, take in all these notions, and kind of, think for yourself. The scene that I'm building, the scene that I'm reconstructing, the scene that I'm kind of reproducing here, does this scene have strong choices? Am I courageous in this scene? Do I do something out of the ordinary, something bold? Is there something like remarkable about me inside of that scene? Or do I try to blend too much? Do I try to be too accommodating, too simple, too welcoming, too nice, too gentle? Because there is nothing more boring than gentle actors in front of the camera. Now, you need to somehow, with your magic, you need to attack this lens. You can be a very introvert type of character. I'm not saying you should always go 180,000% and be overhyped and outgoing. If you are not this character at your core, it will just result in a very artificial performance. No one will believe you that. According to who you are, to your style, you can impact the camera and attack the camera and vow a little bit for the audience. Because the thing is this, the camera loves you. You don't have to ask the camera for anything. The camera will always be there, always record you no matter what. The camera will not say, oh, I don't feel like it, I'm sick, or I don't like you today. The camera will always like you, will always be down for it. It's just what you offer to the camera that will, impact the way your audience perceives you, whether they like or they don't like what they see. So have a tasteful mix when you impact the camera. Think like a painter. Like, am I too aggressive or the right? Am I too upset or do I convey the message, right? Am I too soft or am I just supporting? Like, is this the right mix? And always work on that, right? Always kind of refurbish that over and over again. Am I watering down the message too much, or am I 100% clear about, what I like to say, and am I really transmitting that? And especially in the beginning, there is no problem just asking, love family members, your friends, get on a Zoom call and just show them your monologue, show them on what you're working, and just ask them a couple of questions later. Maybe you write a couple of questions in the chat box and say, answer those questions when my monologue is finished. And maybe you just ask him, what do you think happens to this character? Is this character interesting? Have I showed enough colors? Is he compelling to you? Have I shown any conflict? Because you need that. You need to paint a scenery that is interesting. Like Akira Kurosawa, the great Japanese director, he was very well known also for his paintings. Before he was setting up his master shots with 70 millimeters, he was painting, the scenery. He was kind of imagining first on canvas so he could see the light. He could see how dramatic the scenery would be, where he wants to put his characters and what type of movement he likes his characters to perform in order to fill up that giant canvas. Iki Ikehata, one of his protagonists in Red Beard, for example, another one of Akira Kurosawa's movies, he became a painter because of Akira Kurosawa, because he was doing then the same thing. Like his director, he was always pre-imagining the scene by sketching and drawing it, and by doing so he became a painter and started selling a lot of art, even though he started off as an actor. Martin Scorsese famously, when Hollywood had its breakdown in the 60s, he moved with a lot of directors. He moved like to Italy, or he kind of traveled extensively over Europe to study European architecture, Nouvelle Vague, by Fellini and by Truffaut and by the other players. But, most importantly, he was also traveling to Italy and to Florence and to Rome to, observe and kind of, watch Renaissance art. And famously, Martin Scorsese, in a big interview, he once said, the new Hollywood cinema was imagined based on 2 Caravaggio paintings. Like the new Hollywood revolution out of that, broken studio system of the 60s, all of a sudden, Hollywood started gaining recognition and meaningfulness and purpose again because they were, reinventing the cinema. And one of the fundamental pieces of that cinema, were those 2 Caravaggio paintings in Rome that Scorsese was studying, with his director of photography. And he said, like, this is how I want to depict flesh. This is how I want to show violence. This is how my muscles should come out. This light, this drama, this composition, this conflict, all these things, I like to have them on screen. So Scorsese was really imagining his scenes like a painting. And this is exactly what we could do as well. Like, have I added everything? Is there still like a detail? Am I missing out on something? Is it too much color? Is it too much brightness? Is it too much conflict? Is it the right mixture? Like, in order to really understand what the audience likes, you of course have to experiment, but the experimentation, you have to be very deductful about every single working process because it's you making the choices. It's not something coincidental happening. So the clearer your choices are, the better the audience understands what you're trying to do, and then they can judge. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Not all the movies are great. Not all the paintings are amazing. Not all the sculptures are intriguing. Even from the greatest artists, I would say that 75% of Picasso's paintings are like, yeah, okay, whatever. They're okay, they're nice. But really, like the outstanding art of Picasso, it's probably just 25%. 75% of his stuff is good stuff. Of course, it's it's Picasso, but it's, if you really look at it like technically, like an art critique would look at it and say, it's good. It's not outstanding, it's good. But just 25% of the stuff he created is really outstanding. And that's okay, because we work a lot with volume. We have to experiment. It's not something that just comes overnight and then it's genius and it will stay genius. Yves Klein, think about Yves Klein. I mean, a painter or an artist that just works with blue for his entirety. It's very recognizable. It shows consistency, but it's not really versatile. And a lot of his art, pieces, once they got hyped by the critiques, so everything was sold for a lot of money, which is good for us artists. But, not everything was great about Yves Klein's work, even though I admire him as an artist because of his consistency. But just a couple of percent of his art pieces were really outstanding, in my opinion. And the same thing is true for all the artists. Leonardo da Vinci painted, the landscape of the announcement from Andrea del Verrocchio is one of his first student pieces. Is the landscape of Verrocchio's announcement outstanding? No, it isn't. It's just a regular landscape, even though it was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. What I want to say is we have to find our style through the repetition, through trial and error. It's not always great, but with these parameters, with these vectors in mind, it's going to be easier. It's going to be more effective. And you don't have to go through, the psychological, how can I be a great actor? Just think about how can I impact the camera? What is it that I like to say? What kind of colors do I like to show? What is it that I put on? What is it that I say? How intense am I? How do I manage the transition from one block of speaking to the next block, from one element, from one topic to the next? Have I nailed all these little, images, visions, descriptions, all these little things? They have nothing to do with big emotions. It's just about being precise and effective with your craft and using your tools in the most effective way possible and really kind of extracting everything out of them. This is what you do as an artist, right? The fame, the red carpets, the blah, 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 that comes later. But first you construct, like a painter, your scenes, your style, your recognizability, your application to the work. Every time you hit the lens, think a bit like this, like, What is it that I like to express? How dramatic does it need to be? What is my transition here? How do I want to pose? Is there a certain movement? All these things, they don't have nothing to do with the muse or the universe. They are very specific questions that you answer to yourself. Because in order to create great art, we need to be a little bit like this guy. In order to be great creators, we need a little bit to be like Batman, to investigate, to detect, to be very, very attentive, of the details, to put together the story, to understand what just happened and who was that guy who made that happen. Really to put together all the clues. We need to be like detectives and like vigilantes, because art needs to be defended and preserved. So step into your destiny, guys. Like really step into your art. Show the audience what kind of art you have inside. But because we're not only storytellers, we are designing, our talent. Because like I said, our style is our strategy, and we need to be directors of our style. Because it's our career, it's our life, no one else's. If we don't create our style, if we don't have our agenda, if we don't march to our own beat, then we will march to someone else's beat. We will be obedient to another style, and we will be directed by another director. Do we want that? No. So we have to really design our taste. We have to create our own style, because that is the best strategy to be recognizable. And then we have to direct ourselves in front of the camera according to, what really impacts, what's really interesting, what's tasteful, what's us, and also what's too much and what's not enough, right? To kind of develop that sense of, all right, now I know this was too much. I was screaming too much. I was too intense. I kind of overshoot here. I overacted. Or here I underacted. That wasn't enough. There wasn't enough expression. So if somebody asks me like, Lorenzo, what is your style? I would say I'm a mix between Michael Caine and Jack Nicholson, right? I love to have the stillness of Michael Caine when I'm in close-up, but the whole thing should be animated by an engine that is, powered by Jack Nicholson. So you have an inner narrative that is strong and compelling and very passionate, but over here, you have a transmission that is very clear. People need to understand your style. People need to understand your transmission. If you blink all the time, if you're insecure, if you're not relaxed, they don't understand it because you are obfuscating it. Usually you're doing that because you're afraid, because you're not secure, because you haven't found out like really thoroughly kind of what your style is, and present that and just go with that. Because once you got it, wow, it's another game. Show your colors, design really what your taste is like, and show that, make those bold decisions. How do you want to impact the camera? And when you record yourself with this thing, like rewatch yourself and just ask yourself, radically honest, like be honest to yourself. Do I like this person? Do I want to hang out with this person that I just saw? Is this scene that I just saw, what was this scene like? All the things that we just described in our chat box. Is this scene full of color? Is this full of contrast? Does it trigger an emotional response? Does it give me something to think about? Like Leon said, is the overall message more important than the scene? Is the style more interesting? Like sometimes if we watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, I'm not really sure we're watching a movie per se. We're just watching a style parade, and he made a career out of that. And that is totally fine as well. That is, movie making as well. There is no one rule. It's just it's your rule. It's how you do it.
I found the lines between, like, when I make my own YouTube videos and whatnot, for example, I play like an exaggerated version of myself, or at least that's sort of what I started doing. But as I've been doing it for almost a year now, I've found the line has been blurred to where it's not an exaggerated version of myself anymore. I just more am that person now. I've kind of just morphed into that. So
yes, like
yeah.
yes, I'm sorry.
I wanted to add for acting and YouTube. For both, when I first started, was very nervous and hesitant and wasn't sure, kind of like, how do you act yourself or do what the character calls for, what the channel calls for, or whatever. And it does take, I think, it naturally just takes a period of doing it and like failing and then getting used to it to where you do kind of settle into being more yourself and more comfortable with it, I guess. um and that's just the struggle it kind of goes through at first. Everyone's nervous immediately, but once you kind of realize all the nerves are just in your head, and then you can focus more on like, oh, okay, I'm just in this situation, here's how I would act with it, or how my character with their personality trait would act with it. Once I stopped with acting classes and performing, once I stopped thinking of it as, oh my God, there's people looking at me, and thinking of it as, here's the situation I'm in, the character's in, how would I act? That it all became like so much easier from there.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even when I'm not recording, when the camera's off at this point, I'm still more that person now. I'm more aggressive than I used to be. I'm more, snarky and whatnot. And it's just one of those things that, like, as I was in front of the camera for long periods of time, it's blended into my real life, which I think is a net positive. Like, I'm not complaining. I think that's a good thing. So
yes, no, absolutely. And the thing is, I don't necessarily think that even if you messed up a take, or like that, people will judge you and say, oh yeah, that it's like, it just shows, right, that we're human, that it's okay. And then it also shows our humor, because I think, like, one of the most important components to having a career in whatever field is having a good portion of humor always at your side, because you will fail, people will reject you, they will even tell you bad and mean things, even if you don't necessarily deserve them. And so sometimes, rightfully so, you feel kind of treated in a bad and unjust way. And the only way to shake that off, to dust that off, to brush that off, is with humor, to laugh about it, right? Just put on a smile, like literally put it on. So you tell your brain it's okay. He starts producing endorphins, and it's like, yo, what just happened is crazy, is absolutely unjust, but I will go on no matter what. But I will remember that for sure for a couple of days. Hell, I didn't expect that. And just take it with a portion, with a grain of salt and some humor, because in the end, we're, doing a luxury product. It's, of course, creativity is luxury. We are going the path of the irrational thought, right? It's crazy, because in the end, art is so luxurious because it's so unnecessary. That's the beauty of it. A Bugatti Chiron costs, I don't know, millions of dollars because it's such an unnecessary car. The most useful car costs less. Like a Japanese car, you can get it for free almost, right? It's the most useful car on this planet. Is like a Prius or a Civic or a Camry, right? It's one of the most beautiful cars, because they can do everything. Nobody wants to pay for those. But you give them like a useless car, a car nobody needs, just a two-seater that has like 1,500 horsepower. It makes no sense. It's completely irrational. That car costs millions of dollars because it's art. Because it's unnecessary. Because it's
something. Sorry,
no, it's good.
I just no, I really wanted to add something quickly that I love telling acting people, because as you were saying, don't be so in your head about like mistakes or act like it's the end of the world or anything. One acting role I did, I was in this movie called The Master, and it had Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix, and I was right there working with him. And I'll never forget this. In one scene, we're all sitting in a room, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is his character's like, he's singing a song, and we're all like in the background, like singing with him. And he's like really up and like dancing and into it, giving a big performance. And he suddenly stops and freezes, and he goes, "Line?" And someone yells a line to him, and he goes right back into it like nothing happened at all. And I was just thinking, like, he's an Oscar winner, he's ultimate top actor, and he completely forgot his line right then. But it wasn't like a blow up, what am I gonna do? It was just, oh, and back into it. And I will always remember that as like, don't sweat the very little small things and mistakes, and don't let it take you down.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. It's absolutely true. Even the greatest masters, like Bob De Niro has 3 acting coaches. The best living actor on the planet has 3 acting coaches on set. Daniel Day-Lewis, I don't know how many coaches he has on set. But it's like, you know, the best, they know they need help and they get the help as quick as possible. So they lose as little as possible in terms of time and energy to get their performance going, instead of dealing with the ego. So, oh no, I don't need one. And after 4 weeks into shooting, you realize you need one, and you've wasted 4 weeks of your shooting material, and therefore you will never be booked again. So be smart about your art. So we established what a career needs. We established also what the lens needs initially from us, right? To find our impact, our colors, our transition, our right contrast. We know we need a little bit of everything. We need to study great art to develop a taste so we can know, okay, this is how I want to impact the camera. But this is just this is the action side of it. Then there is another essential side of the camera, and that is listening. It's all about producing, okay, all right. But then when someone else is speaking, which hopefully will also happen here during our careers, like, because then you know you're on a good movie when you're also listening. And you have to remember this, and probably you want to write this down. Actors listen with their eyes, not with their ears. They listen with their eyes. They stay focused. They absorb the information. And once they feel the hunch, the reaction, they feel like something is building up. They react to it, to what they just heard. But it's here, you're creating the connection here. The audience just knows what you're thinking and feeling because they're seeing it in your eyes. If this is of course an expression, but it makes it really difficult for 90 minutes to kind of follow this expression, right? It's interesting for a couple of seconds maybe, but the whole movie, won't last, because you need this. You need the soul connection. This is the portal to our soul, to our spirit, to our inner being. And we listen with our eyes. We connect with the reader. We connect with the camera. We connect with the other person in the room, with the other character in the scene, with the speaker, with the venture capitalist, with the employer, whoever it is. We connect with the eyes and we listen with the eyes, and then we react to it. We react to the information, and that reaction, again, now we're back into production mode. That reaction needs to be thought out a bit like a painter. Not too much, not too less, not too blended, not too anemic, not too boring, not too mediocre. There must be something compelling. It could be a little thing, it could be a big thing, it could be a movement, it could be a gesture, it could be an action, it could be the way you say things, whatever it is. Make it special. Make it a little piece of Caravaggio, even if it's a small reaction. That was my production mode. Now I'm back into listening mode. How is the other character, the audience, the venture capitalist, the employer reacting to my reaction, right? Now, here we're coming to a crucial moment, because usually once we're into this production, listening, reproduction, re-listening, we build up expectations inside of our head. We kind of expect, after a certain while, when we discuss, even with a stranger, we sit down with that stranger, we have a conversation. After 10 minutes, we kind of figure this other person out, even at the blind date. And then we start expecting reactions. Expecting because we're saying things with a certain inclination, and then we expect the other person to react in a certain way. Now, does that reaction that we're expecting match our expectations or not? Is it exactly what we've expected, or completely the opposite, or is it close, or is it completely something else? And according to that expectation that gets disappointed or fulfilled, this is the moment of a new reaction that comes from us. And when we're reacting, again, we're producing. We're really like back to square one. How do we produce our reaction? And this ignites the chain reaction that the scene ultimately is. This gives life to the scene. This kind of creates the organic construct of a great acting scene. Now we're in the, we're in the zone. I'm connecting, I'm listening, I'm reacting, I'm waiting for the reaction. It's not what I thought. I'm disappointed. I freaked out. Or, oh, no, we're coming to agreement, right? So, and this is the life inside of a scene. Reaction has that little particle that's called re, R-E. Re or re or ra is old Egyptian. We got a late bloomer coming in. Tony, nice that you joined, my man. You're slightly late, but it's fantastic having you on board. Hopefully you're doing great. Are you there? If you're there, why don't you drop your information in the chat box so people get to know you? We were just we're about to kind of, slowly concluding this whole beautiful adventure of us. What I'd like to say is the concept of reproducing, of reacting, of recycling, right? It always has to do something with life. We are regaining, it's always this re. And re is always life. It's always the sun. It's the old Egyptian Ra, right? It's the sun coming back. So every scene, in a way, is a reflection of that old Egyptian principle of life and death, of love and fear, of darkness and light, of sun and moon, right? Of woman and man, of, neophyte and hierophant. It's always that. It's yin and yang. Every acting scene kind of reflects that old sacred principle. There's no way around it. So we have, in a way, to die in a scene, to resurrect again, right? And then kind of offer something new, and then we die again and we offer something new. And then maybe in the end we join, and then we have gained new knowledge, and through that new life can be born, and the scene is completed, and then we go on to the next scene. And that will tell the entirety of the movie if we go on like that. So there's nothing you should be afraid of. When you are reacting to, what's coming in, to the information, to the other reaction, when you're reacting to that, everything is actually allowed. Just keep in mind, what the rules are, roughly. And according to that, you react. It can be sometimes spontaneous, even sometimes off rail. And it can be sometimes underwhelming or overwhelming. You can play a strategy by mapping out how many reactions do you like to, kind of place here. You know your text, how many times you can jump in and do something. So over time, you will get a sense of that. But the reaction itself is the most intrinsic and most interesting and the most truthful part about the acting process. Because everything else is just, thinking of the parts, memorizing the monologue, taking, we will talk about this in the next masterclass, like how to actually tackle the monologue, how to break it down. 22nd of October, by the way, it's going to be for free again. Like, it's going to be a beautiful masterclass on how to analyze the script to get the most out of it in the least amount of time and all these things. But once you have that, that is the preparation. That is the person who prepared that. Once you get into the room, all of a sudden you have somebody who's reacting in a completely different way to what you've expected. And now it's all about you being versatile enough, adapting to this and reacting again truthfully to that. And just being in the moment and not thinking, oh, he's not reacting how I expected it. This is not how I prepared this whole thing, right? Because if you're acting like this, you're reacting out of a, out of a zone of fear and neglection and contradiction, right? And opposition. And this will not, generate any success for you. If you react like this, it won't open up your doors. It won't open up the doors to the scene. It won't open up the doors of entertainment industry. So if something unexpected happens, open up, embrace it, and say, all right, fuck it. This is completely different to what I've prepared, but I go with it. Because guess what? I have the power If I say that a little slight difference to my preparation already causes my demise, then I don't have power anyways. I shouldn't have been there in the first place. If I accept and embrace whatever change, whatever unexpected, whatever surprising event might occur, whatever different opinion I might encounter, and I just go for it, I will, embrace life. I will, kind of come out of a place of love, of generosity, of abundancy. And that is always great to see for a casting director. It's always great to see for someone who wants to hire you, how you react to difficulties and say, she's not giving up. She's a fighter. She's a warrior. She's embracing the process. She's showing some humor. She has some other ideas. Okay. And so everybody will kind of cherish those qualities inside of you. Even if you're not delivering in the perfect scene, it doesn't matter. It's about how you do it, not what you do it. Remember that. So it's how you show your character, even in the moments of difficulties, that will bring you the most success. Even though it doesn't mean that you always will book the role. Sometimes the casting director still goes for the other option, but he will remember you. He will recognize you the next time and say, I know you reacted great next time. Maybe this script kind of fits you better. Let's go with it. And maybe you will have your breakthrough on this occasion. So really, when you are reacting, no holds barred. Show what you got. Make some bold emotional choices. Go for contrast. Risk something. Show your colors. What we just discussed here. What is so great about all these movie scenes? Because they give us hope. What is so great about Shawshank Redemption? It gives us hope. It gives us light. It gives us something to believe in. What is so great about Spider-Man? It gives us a message. This moment, it really stands for something where we kind of, maybe we have lost that way. It gives us a moment of reflection. What's so great about Whiplash? It gives us power, right? This is what we want to see in every great reaction. We want to see that. Maybe we want to see hope. We want to see power. We want to see a fight. We want to see some contrast. What's so great about the moment that Victoria described? It was such an emotional moment. It was so true. It was so sensitive. Maybe we want to react like that. We have all the choices here. But one thing is for sure. When you're making those decisions, when you're feeling that hunch, when you're going with what your intuition tells you to do, always remember, this is life emerging, right? I mean, the structure, the taste, the style, the strategies, that's all beautiful and important, but don't try to kind of muzzle life. Give life its rightful space. Let it blossom up. Go with it, right? Don't try to, just have something and then do it half-baked. No, go with it, believe in it, and just see it through. See where it takes you, right? Maybe that's like a slightly contradiction to, don't overdo it, because once in a while, I also said, make mistakes and fail, right? And fail miserably. Once in a while, you will overdo it and you will fail by doing so. And then you will realize what your right level is, but always see it through. Be really constant about that. Be like what I also said, like you have to make bold choices, but you have to be consistent about those choices. If you, in the middle of the thing, realize, okay, it's not really working, doesn't matter. See it through. See where it takes you. See where it brings you. Maybe you learn something new out of it that will nail the next audition then. It doesn't matter, but be consistent about your choices. Be loyal to your choices. I guess that's the right word. When life emerges, admit it, because it's just you and the camera. The camera loves everything about you. It's a conversation you're having with this lens. And this lens will only be impacted by truthful conversations. We've had so many mediocre and boring conversations in our life. We've had so many moments where we thought we're just sitting here and just enduring this, and it's not really the thing that we wanted. Let's not waste our beautiful energy by doing those things. Let's use our energy to trigger amazing things, to tell great and epic stories, to feel like we don't have boundaries because we have everything under control. And if we don't have everything under control, let's exercise it the next time in a better way, more thoroughly, and be more obsessive about it, to the point where you feel like relaxed stepping in front of the camera and doing the things that you feel are necessary to convey the message of the character. That is the most important thing. We give ourselves up in this moment to tell his message, right? According also to what the author has described. And that is the beauty, to kind of, lending out some of our qualities to this different container and then getting them back once the container has finished its mission. So yes, it's producing, but it's also listening and reacting. Otherwise, acting is reacting. You have to produce an action. Acting comes from action. You have to act upon something. You have to be decisive. And like we said, like a painter, like a sculptor. But then once our acting upon something is over, we're still there. We're not just finishing to act just because we don't speak. We're still there. We're still active. We're still listening. And we want to capture the tiniest, the smallest grain of information and kind of translate that and transmute that immediately and morph that into a reaction out of our system. So the game keeps going on and on and on perpetually, like forever. The closer we get to the camera, the more intense our relationship is, the better listeners we have to become. Otherwise, we won't be completely truthful to the craft and won't be as successful also. Because like successful actors, watch them. They're great listeners. They don't fake it. They're really listening. This is probably the part that is the most sincere about their act, is when they're listening, because they know exactly. By just actively listening, they already have like half the rent paid without any great work, because they just have to react spontaneously to what they're getting in. And the reaction can be based on the impulse that I'm getting from the other actor. If one actor is reading like this, my reaction will be also. If the other actor, the other reader is reading, probably my reaction will also be, right? So it's always kind of mirroring, reflecting, going into a direction, but I'm always getting the impulse. So it's half the rent to actively listening, to actively being there. I produce, and then I listen, and then I reproduce. Again, the sun coming back, we rising from the ashes, we being newborn. Every moment, every impulse inside of the scene is a new life, is a new possibility to find a new way to the other character. It's a new invention. It's a new action. It's a new nuance. Even if we decide that we want to stay the same, because when we don't say anything in front of the camera, it's not because we don't have anything to say. We have millions of things to say. Each and every one of us has millions of things to say. And we will get to that in a second. But we just decide not to say it. That is the power of having a narrative behind your eyes. It's not because you don't say anything, you don't think anything, or you don't have anything to say. You have a lot of very important things to say every moment of your life. I wake you up in the 4 in the morning, you have very important things to say. Like, fuck off and let me sleep. That's a very important thing to say. I come over at lunch and you would say different things to me, but they're always important. And when we are not saying them, because the script tells us not to say anything, that doesn't mean that we are not thinking. That doesn't mean that we're not alive. That doesn't mean that we're not active. We just decide not to do it. So the narrative is still alive. The fire bundle is still, emanating heat and fire and light. We need light. We need love. We need life. Light, love, life. And then it's about exercising a certain degree of being also, when it comes down to listening, relaxed. Because if we are over tense, we can't really listen. If we are over too stiff, too upset, we don't listen. Like, this is why when we're fighting with our partners, with our families, with our friends, we don't really listen, right? Because we're fighting. So make sure that whatever happens before, but is before. You get to your casting, things happened, right? You had tire breakdown, whatever happened, it happened before, but now you're getting into the room. You can't carry that like daily stuff into the room. You can carry your traumas on stage. You can carry your mishappenings and all that, in front of the audience. They don't belong there. They make you unique. They create the scars that make you recognizable for sure. But, you know, keep your stories to yourself and show me. Don't tell me what your reaction is like. It's show business, not tell business. Does that make sense? It's just you and the camera and this intense conversation that you're having, and you need to be 100% attentive to really capturing every nuance. And in order to do that, you have to leave all the bullshit in front of the door. Just leave it there, pick it up later if you want. Otherwise, you can even, you know, that's why actors, I believe, like artists, are happier people, because you know what? Just leave it there. We are able to dump. Like, not a lot of people are able to do that. You shouldn't underestimate that talent, because listening has a lot to do with being also relaxed. I can only listen to my friends and I'm relaxed. I can have a rough day, but I really want to listen to my friends, and therefore I make sure that, you know what? Let's brush off everything. I'm really happy to see you, my friend. Tell me, what's the story? Now I'm here with you. And that makes me forget my own pain. It makes me forget my own trauma. It pushes back my ego, because in order to be a great actor, I need to push back my ego, because if I'm attentively listening to someone, I'm not listening to my back thoughts, right? I'm not listening to my ego. I'm listening to the other person. And that is like really giving up a piece of your ego in order to be receptive, in order to be, you know, to accept, to be welcoming this other frequency. And I guess that's it. That's the whole process of acting in front of the camera, giving you the long-term goal, how to, you know, stand out in a market that is highly competitive, giving you like a concept on how to act, how to know if your actions and what you're saying and how you're doing it in front of the camera has a certain impact and a certain validity, if it has a certain originality, a certain value. And also, when it comes down to the second part of the acting process, really reacting and listening to what's coming in, and not just, you know, kind of executing your game plan, what you preconceive, but also being open to suggestions and going with what you're receiving, being adaptive and versatile and being flexible. And that mental elasticity you can only develop also, you know, by having that, you know, figured out as like, hey, it's the moment that I'm open. It's when I receive the impulse on how I should react. When I'm always preconceiving, I won't be open to a truthful reaction, and my emotions just go free. So therefore, I'm always caging myself if I'm trying to superimpose my intellect over the scene. There are many method actors out there. They are doing a great job, but they are superimposing the intellect over the scene. And I think art, being such an ancient and beautiful ritual, art and acting especially being such a like a drama of, you know, you're reenacting life and death all the time, love and fear all the time when you're having a scene, black and white, conflict. And so therefore you need to be open to those mythological channels. You need to kind of, you know, channel that a little bit also into your act. So it's not all rational. It's not always the mind. You know, it's also the body and mind coming together and really kind of working that, you know, unique performance that will make you stand out. And that is the beauty of acting on camera, whether you're an actor, whether you're a performer, whether you're a communicator, whether you're a real estate agent. That is how you impact it, how you can really get the maximum results out of it. I'm the living proof of that. So I'm curious if you got any questions. I would say we can jump into a Q&A section. I just want to remind you guys, 22nd of October is going to be the acting masterclass on how to, you know, build the monologue, and how to kind of reverse engineer the script, and how to analyze the screenplay or your text and your scene in the most efficient way, how to have the least amount of energy but the maximum kind of, you know, result getting out of it, how you can create like a compelling, beautiful monologue is super, super important, because everything is a monologue in life. Like everything is acting. You need a great acting monologue, right? So therefore, if all the world's a stage and we're all actors without a monologue, we don't have a business card. So we need to work a monologue, and therefore 22nd of October, highly recommend you to join the masterclass there. Also, of course, jump to my, various social media platforms such as YouTube. It's the Coach MC Studio, Twitter, Instagram, where I also have some artsy stuff going on because I love to draw and paint and sketch. And, I'm absorbed by art in all its facets and ramifications. So therefore you can, join my arts adventure on Instagram as well. And if you're in the Miami area, we have networking events going on. It's going to be the 20th. It's next Wednesday. Beautiful panel. Our secrets are your secret. Our business is your business. We're going to have a beautiful networking event over here in Miami. And on the 22nd, we have our Miami Creative Network in Calle Ocho, Social Miami 27. Check out my social media platforms to get informed. Just follow my content so you get updated. Jump over to my YouTube channel if you're an actor, performer, and you want to learn something more about your craft, and also how to navigate the industry and how to really get positioned into that industry. Because again, we're the studio of modern acting. We love to not only teach you acting, but to get you into acting, right? And we believe we can do that pretty quickly because we want to skip all the BS, just focus on what's necessary to you being a remarkable performer, finding the context, your style of your performance, and getting represented by someone who brings you into the room. And once you're in the room, it's all about you kind of liberating your emotions. Life emerges, you impact the lens, you impact the casting director, you get booked. And from there on, it's all about making the right choice and being consistent with your career. I hope you enjoyed this masterclass. It was a big honor for me. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate each and every one of you. It's been like a pleasure. I always wanted to do this because I believe there's a lot of hocus pocus, a lot of nonsense being said, a lot of webinars out there, people telling you what to do, how to do it. But, this comes from someone who has over 2,100 IMDb acting credits. And so I can say without any arrogance that I have a pretty good idea what you need in order to impact the camera. And I just wanted to condense all this knowledge in the least amount of time possible to give you already a blueprint you can work with, immediately go out and kind of start something. If you want to work a bit more, thoroughly on your monologue, on your material, maybe you want to add a new monologue to your show reel, to your portfolio, maybe there's a big audition coming up and you want to be prepared in a remarkable way, because I always say if you're uniquely prepared, then you can remarkably share. And you want to prepare this with me, then reach out to the coachmc.studio. I have my contact formula there, and you just can contact me and we jump into the adventure. We can do that. Or you want to book a course and you want to learn all the nitty-gritty, all the nuts and bolts of the acting business, and yeah, I would love to do that as well. Let's jump into the course, 10 sessions where we can jumpstart your career or improve your existing career. And for everything else, I have maybe here Victoria asking, my question is, what did you mean when in the middle of it you realize it's the right thing, still be consistent? Could give an example? Sure. Thank you so much for this beautiful hours here. I loved your input. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Victoria, also for this question. So the thing is, let's say you are in the audition, right? And you're auditioning and you're doing your monologue, and or you're having a scene and you're kind of reacting to what the reader just gave you, and you are in the middle of a reaction, right? And you thought this is it, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, probably this is not good, or you're having doubts about where you're going with this, right? So here are two possibilities. You can exit this train and jump into another train and then just go into another direction, right? And just kind of act something else. Or you rather as well stay on that train and double down on what you're doing and kind of, let's say, scare off your negative thoughts, right? And send them back into jail and say, you know what? I'm going to double down. I'm going to make it even bigger so I don't hear them anymore, because maybe I'm just boring myself out right now and I'm having doubts on my performance just because I don't feel it, or, somehow I'm not connected. So I double down. I just consistently go down that road and I see where it takes me. Right? I'm not trying to pivot in the middle of the scene just because I feel, you don't know how it's ultimately going to impact the lens and ultimately going to impact your audience. Don't feel so entitled to think exactly how people will feel after you showed them your work because you felt that way, right? Because the way you feel, oh, this is certainly how my audience feels. It's not necessarily matching all the time. It happened to me many times in theater plays that I kind of exited the stage, the play was over, and I thought, wow, that was a great night. And then my director was approaching me, like, said, Lorenzo, what was that? Right? It's like, what? I thought that was great. It's like, no, it wasn't. Right? So my expectations, I thought I've done a marvelous job, and then people were saying like, it was a bit too much or whatever. So you don't always know how people will actually feel, you know, when it comes to reacting to your material. So you rather as well consistently go down that path and explore it fully instead of pivoting and not knowing where this path potentially would have, you know, taken to you to. So if that makes sense, right? All right. Thank you so much, Wyatt, for joining. Great teachings from the Acting Oracle Coach MC Studio. Thank you so much, sir. Nicole, how can I lose the fear of the camera? I know it's all about mindset. I also know there's fear. The camera, you don't have fear of the camera. There is no such thing like fear of the camera. You're just afraid that you're not interesting enough. And that can be fixed without any problem. You just work. You just practice. You develop a better style. You say things millions of times. You start having fun. You start going in different directions. And by the time you kind of find out that you can do different things in a very interesting way, you won't care about the camera anymore. You will only care about showing those things. It's about the fun of showing your crazy, irrational, foolish sides, and just open yourself up to that possibility of being that vulnerable, beautiful being. And if you want to work on that, we can do that. Just contact me, thecoachmc.studio. Let's jump in a free trial session and let's find out what we want to work on. But you're never afraid of the camera. You're just afraid of you not nailing the thing that you want to nail. But that is the beautiful thing. Like, go with it. Jump into darkness. Don't worry. You have to start somewhere. You have to press record somehow, sometime. And there is no perfect alignment. There will always be some nervosity going on. There's always like this little going on. And if it's excessive, then it's fear, then it's blocking you. But if it's healthy, I did an Instagram post on that a couple of days ago. You might want to check it out. But if it's healthy, then it translates into traction, and that is beautiful, and that will help you to kind of, you know, promote your message. So healthy nervosity is all good. Excessive one can turn into fear, but it's usually just you and the challenge. All right. Okay, Leon, I understand. All right, October, it's gonna be fantastic. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining.
Happy to do it later, bud. Everyone else, thanks for joining. Great job today, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. Absolutely. Kati, do you have recommendations for good accent coaches for standard American accent? Yeah, I mean, also when it's quite verbally, you can also ask them verbally at this point. Don't worry if you're up for it. There are great accent coaches. I guess the best acting coach is your ear, is like really get your ear close and your eyes closed to good material where people speak like proper English, and write down what you're seeing, double check your pronunciation in the moment. There's wordreference.com or talkenglish.com where you can check, or Babbel for what it's worth, where you can check pronunciation. It's really mimicking their movement of their lips and really seeing what they're saying is like in the way they're saying it, and sometimes abbreviating, you know, the sounds and making it more compact and trying to be faster and faster. And you will see you get closer and closer to a great American standard accent. And of course, they're great coaches. You can find them on Fiverr and Skillshare. There are many platforms out there where you have the possibility to contact those, but really your ear is the first of all these great coaches. Really listen, right, to how they say, and watch it, observe closely how they move while they're saying the things that they're saying. Just by mimicking sometimes the facial kind of movement, you get the sound out in a perfect way, because it's exactly the way, you know, the way you say it, it's the way it sounds. So by mimicking sometimes the context, you get the content right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a challenge. Of course, it's always a challenge. If it wouldn't be a challenge, it wouldn't be worth it, right? Victoria, my other question would be, with the observing, watching others, can you just watch one or two actors all the time and get more detail with what you like about their style? Do you need to watch more different actors? That's actually a really good question. I like the approach of first getting to 2 different actors, female, male. What are my most favorite actors? And I watch them over and over again in the beginning. And I develop, because usually I'm connected to the things that are the closest to me in the beginning. And then I start branching out and watching more and more and more and more. And then I see, like, okay, from Christopher Walken, I like the way he walks. From Bob De Niro, I like the way he drinks. From Al Pacino, I like the way he, you know, searches for something with his eyes. From Michael Caine, I like the way he speaks calmly. You know, like Picasso said, you have to steal from the best. You kind of take the elements from the best people out there and you make your own program. You design, like I said, like I showed with the slide, you design your own style. And you kind of, patch everything together and you connect it with your uniqueness. This is how you develop your own, recognizable style. Which actor would you recommend to us to watch to learn to get specific color, like the color of listening? You can watch me. I got some I got some episodes, you could, like, there are many episodes available online or on my network's media server. But really listening, like, look, watch out for John Malkovich. Like, the way John Malkovich listens is fascinating because he already knows exactly when the line is hitting him where he likes to respond. So he's very strategic about and very impulsive at the same time. I love that about John Malkovich. It's a unique quality. I also love the early work of Gary Oldman. I think he's one of the best actors out there. Gary Oldman in his prime, it was an unstoppable force of nature. The way he was listening and looking, great. Michael Caine, great. Jack Nicholson, fantastic. From the younger actors, I love Sam Rockwell, the way he listens. Christian Bale, Cillian Murphy, great actor in terms of how he listens. Tom Hardy as well, great, very intense actor. There are many out there who really kind of are just captivating just by being there in the moment. Ryan Gosling, I'm not crazy about his acting style, but for sure, he's a great listening actor. So if that's it, if no questions anymore arise, thank you so much for coming out today. It was a great pleasure, great honor. We will, publish this on YouTube. People will surely get a lot out of this. We will see us on the 22nd of October for the next masterclass, when it's about the monologue and analyzing the script, building the character, which is truly important, whether we're actors, whether we're sellers, whether we're applying for a new job, whether we like to negotiate. We always have a script, and we always need that script to be translated into a great speech. And how can we do that? What are the most important components? What is it that we really need there to impact our audience? We will make sure to kind of cover that. I'm really looking forward to have you all on board for the next time as well. Please make sure to check me out on my various social media platforms. Jump over to my website. It's www.thecoachmc.studio and just contact me. Yes, sure, Kati, just ask me.
Yeah, if there's still time.
Sure.
For example, I'm fascinated by series. I would love to be a series regular. That would be like one of my top goals.
Right.
And I know you were a series regular. How is it to be an actor, also especially on a daily series?
So it's like, to me, acting is one of the most beautiful things that you can do, right? So it's an incredible privilege. It's always beautiful. And I say this wholeheartely. I really mean this, because I went through this, the whole stage of a career, right? And so I love being on set for a film academy movie, right? That is just a crazy short movie without any type of organization. Everything is chaotic, right? And where you really have to find your own way of expressing. And I love also the set of like a daily soap, like I was on for many, many years, because that teaches you a lot about yourself, right? But both sets are very instrumental to forming your career. Being on set means that every day you have to come up with something, with a narrative, with something that's intriguing. It's maybe sometimes the way you react, maybe sometimes you have your big speech, but essentially over time, what you will realize, whether you are on a film academy set or on a daily set, you will have to learn a couple of things. First of all, you have to learn how to streamline your process. That means that acting is, yes, exploring and discovering in the moment. It's all beautiful, bula bula, but unfortunately, to many of us, this is a bit of a disappointment. We have to create structure around our art. We have to streamline our process. That means sometimes you get called to action and you have a fever. But you can't just tell your production company, oh, I have a fever today, I can't come, right? Because this is $1 million, even if it's a regular series like I was in, it costs millions of euros every day. So you can't just call out on sick bay. You have to find a way how to be an actress, even if you're sick. You have to find a way to be an actress, even if you're in a bad mood. You have to find a way to be an actress, even if you are completely distracted, right? And somewhere completely different. If there's a trauma going on in your family, whatever it is, you have to be insulated against everything else. And just to streamline out a product that you can replicate, reproduce, and reenact every time you get called to action. Sometimes you get called as an actor, like at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's like, oh, no, we have to anticipate the shoot because we have such beautiful light. It needs to be on the sunrise. We pick you up in 15 minutes. It's really like that sometimes, right? So you have to get ready in 15 minutes. There is no reaction time. So I guess what I want to say is the beauty of acting comes also from the preparation. You feel free and relaxed on set once you prepared everything thoroughly for yourself. Be ready to be not ready. Mm-hmm. And enjoy every time you're in front of the camera. No matter what you're shooting, enjoy, have fun with it. Because you're alive. You're more alive than in your real life. Because on set, all the things are allowed that are not allowed in real life, right? Because the stuff that you are in real life is boring in front of the camera, and the stuff that you are in front of the camera is not allowed in real life. So thank you so much. I leave you with these words again. It was fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this little, ritual that we had today. Thank you for your passion, for your time, for being here. See you next time, the 22nd of October. Check out the other content. Subscribe also, to all of you. Just connect. If you have questions, DM me on Instagram. Hopefully we stay a creative community. This is not a one-time occasion. I'm always out here. You can see it every day. I'm trying to help actors, performers, creative people to make it in life. And so I'm always there for you when it comes to this. Let's be a supportive community. See you next time. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.